first well, not the first batch of revealed cards, but all the cards revealed so far. Now, we know that the rest of the cards are going to be revealed on Monday, and I'm hoping to make my second part there, but I figured I'd try to get out a bulk of the cards out of the way, just kind of get my thoughts out, and let you know what I think about it, totally as a completely average, Hearthstone player. I am nothing special when it comes to Hearthstone, but I figured I would try to go ahead and give my thoughts. I've been playing it, since it came out. I was playing it a little bit in beta, and I've played through all the expansions. I've played in every single meta, so I know about what to expect. I've never been like Legend or anything like that, but I've played a lot of it, and it's a game that I really enjoy. So I figured I would go ahead and try to take my shot at one of these, figure it out, and give my opinion on some of the cards going on kind of in a free flow style. So without further ado, let's get started. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going class by class until I get to the neutral cards, and then I'll review the neutral cards as well. I'm going to start with the legendaries because I think those are the most exciting cards to do, and move on down through the commons, which I think are more impactful, but I will be reviewing what I think the average, or how the card plays in constructed. I might add a little bit of insight as to how I think it'll do in arena, but again, I'm not a big arena player, so I don't take my opinion on that one. Take it definitely, as a common player on constructed. Without further ado, let's move on to the first card, which is one of my favorites in the set. It's Hadronox. Now, it's Death Rattle. It's a Druid 9-mana legendary Hadronox. Death Rattle. Summon your taunt minions that died this game. It's a 3/7. That's the first thing that I see. When I see it's a 9-mana 3/7, I have to go, it has to be an insane card. And so when I look at this card, I try to think of N'Zoth. And N'Zoth is a 10-mana 5/7 that has a pretty nutty effect too. That's built around building your deck around a certain type of card. Druid isn't necessarily known for playing a lot of taunt cards, but you can get quite a bit of taunt cards with the expansion coming out that we've talked about, or that will be shown coming up. One of my favorite combinations actually would be Hadronox into N'Zoth, which would just be nutty. It would be so much, basically right there, if you ever pull off that combo, your opponent is not going to get through your board. They're going to need massive board clear after massive board clear after massive board clear to get rid of it, and there's just no way. So it's a very lofty dream, but I feel like you could get away with just Hadronox and N'Zoth and maybe a bunch of taunt minions to help get you up to that point, especially with one of the new cards coming out. I think it's Scarab Infection or something like that, something crazy. But this card, it doesn't have a deck right now, but I absolutely believe it'll build a deck. I'm not going to say that it's super overpowered. It's not one of those cards that you look at and you go, I'm making a deck right now just for this one, because you don't know if it's going to work or not. But overall, I'm going to give this card a solid. I'm going to be playing it. It's as simple as that. I'm going to be playing it. It gets a 4. Whoops. Let's see. Let's try to make that a little lower. It gets a 4. Alright, let's move on. FateSpinner. 5-mana 5/3. Choose a Death Rattle secretly. Deal 3 damage to all minions, or give them all +2/+2. Now, I am pretty sure. Whoops. I am pretty sure that the card is supposed to give all minions, like including your opponent's minions, +2/+2. And that could be good, obviously depending on your situation. You wouldn't want to play this card if they have a full board, obviously, and pick the +2/+2 option, unless you were really trying to mess with them and make them think, oh, he wouldn't pick that, he wouldn't, be silly. But what I think is really important here is the secret mechanic, which I think is awesome. It really keeps you guessing, because, yeah, maybe you don't want the +2/+2 on a board full of minions, but that's what your opponent's thinking, and then that way you can get inside their mind, and it's a very, very, very fair 50-50, because there's one that's obviously the better answer, but if you can maybe find a situation where you can bluff your opponent out, then that's also really good too. Both these effects are really good too for their mana line. If you go ahead and add it up, it would be basically 7/5 in stats for just the 5/5 if you get it off on one minion, or even if it does just 3 damage, it's kind of like a mini, I can't think of his name, the one from Black Rock Mountain with the, if you were holding a dragon, deal 3 damage. It's kind of like that card, but it seems if you even get it off on just one enemy minion. This card seems really good in like a mid-range control kind of druid, and I can definitely see it seeing play. Again, it looks like druids are getting some pretty good cards. I'm going to give this another 4 out of 5. Not an auto include, but definitely strong. Alright, next up is Ultimate Infestation. 10 mana spell, deal 5 damage, draw 5 cards, gain 5 armor, and summon a 5/5 ghoul. Delicious. This card is so good. It's a 10 mana, absolutely save your board state. People think like Lay on Hands is really strong, and it is. Lay on Hands is a strong card. This is basically Fireland's Portal for 7 mana. For 7 mana, you get Fireland's Portal. For 3 more mana, you get some health. And you get card draw. You get crazy card draw. And so this will definitely be one of those cards that will probably see play in that N'Zoth Hadronox deck that I was talking about, because it gives you a lot of control and it also gives you a lot of draw to go through the rest of your deck. Yogg has now a even better spell to cast than before, unless it casts on itself. There's just so much that is good about this card. The only problem being is that it's 10 mana, and from every other expansion we know 10 mana is a hard thing to get to. Even playing something like a Kazaka's 10 mana potion turned out not to be all that reliable. That is the only fault with the fact that it's 10 mana. However, it's in Druid, so they can cheat out their cards, and it's insane. It's definitely worth the 10 mana, if not more somehow. If they could have made this card 11 mana and then made you figure out, hey, you deal with it and get it down to 10 mana, it still probably would have been fair. But for 10 mana, absolutely 5 out of 5 card, no doubt about it. Alright, next card. We've got Spreading Plague. 5 mana spell. Summon a 1/5 Scarab with Taunt. If your opponent has more minions, cast this again. So this was the card I was talking about when I was talking about Hadronox, and getting all those Taunt minions. So this is a 5 mana, basically every Taunt, get in here. 1/5 is a super strong wall, especially at 5 mana. If you play this on turn 5 against an aggro deck, they're gonna be like, what do I do? If you play the I forget the name of it, the one that gives +1/+1 to all your minions in Druid, as well, you basically make a wall of 2 6s. If you make that against an aggro deck, you are probably just going to win, because there's no way they're going to be able to get through a wall of 2 6s. So if you play this against something like Token Shaman, who by turn 5 has a board full of just random garbage, well, then you're going to get devolved. But assuming they don't have devolve, this card's great. I think for 5 mana, it's kind of gonna be a dream card again, and it's also summoning a bunch of relatively weak minions if you can't get like 3. I'd say 3 is the breaking point. If you get 3, then this card's great. If you get 2, it's a 2/10. It's a 2/10. So you're getting basically like a 6 mana worth of value out of it. But if you get 3, it would be great. 1, garbage. 2, okay, and then 3 and beyond is great. In that Taunt deck that I was talking about, it would still be really good, because you're pulling just basically anything that can spawn taunts in that Taunt Druid that might become a thing. This would be good. I'm going to be on the side of safe here, though. I'm not going to give this one as crazy as the previous scores before, because I had to think about it. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a 3.5 for Spreading Plague. Alright, next we have Crypt Lord. Not Crypt Lord, but Crypt Lord. Whatever. Crypt Lord, Taunt. After you summon a minion, gain +1 health. This is a 3 mana card as well, I forgot to mention that. So 3 mana for 1/6 already is pretty good stats. I don't think we've ever seen a minion with that stat line before. It comes with Taunt, so this thing basically has prime stats with an effect and with basically bonuses on it. So I think this card is great. It's a common, which I haven't mentioned yet, but yeah, it's a common, so it'll probably be amazing in Arena. I'm not sure about the state of Druids in Arena, so I'm not going to go ahead and tell you it's going to fix everything. I'm not sure. But it's really solid. This is a really strong card early game. This will definitely help make that Taunt Druid thing a thing as well. Outside of Taunt Druid, it'll probably still see play because it's a really strong defensive card, much like Tar Creeper. You know, you just play this against aggro and they've got to take over like 2 turns to deal with it. So, a really strong card, solid on its own. Definitely a 4.5. Alright, so next we're going to move on to Hunter, and Hunter has had its hero revealed, and it was one of the first heroes revealed, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about it anyway. So, here we are, 6 mana Deathstalker Rexxar. So, when you play this card, you're going to get 2 things immediately. 1, you're going to get 5 armor, and 2, you're going to deal 2 damage to all enemy minions. So basically you're going to play like a loaded explosive trap. And then it's hero power, it's probably down here, right? Hero power, yep. 2 mana, craft a Zombeast. And now Zombeast is going to be discover a beast, discover 1 beast, and then discover another beast, and then combine everything about it. So it's going to combine its mana, its health, its attack, and any stats that it has. So if you discover like Savannah Highmane, well, I don't think you can discover Savannah Highmane, they have to be under 5 mana. If you discover Tundra Rhino and Infested Worgen, I think is the one, the 4 mana 3/3 spawn stuff, you're gonna get a 9 mana 5/8 give all of your beasts charge, death rattle, summon 2 spiders. So it's got a lot of potential to be an interesting combination, but I also think it's going to be really, really slow, because you got to pay the 2 mana up front just to make this card, and then you have to cast the card. It's not like you create the card and then cast the card, on top of which there are so many beasts that are going to be in standard that you don't want. There's going to be new beasts that you don't want to mess with. You know that Discover isn't always like find the perfect card. It's not, especially now that there's so many cards that fit into just a broad sense of the word. It's no longer like discover a 3 mana card for your class. It's like discover a beast out of all the beasts, and it's like, okay, so it's going to be very hard to pick a combination that you want to get. But you know, there's really no but. I don't think this card is very good. I don't think this is going to save Hunter. There's not a Control Hunter deck yet, and I don't think there's going to be. If Control Hunter does become a thing, this will definitely be one of the cards. 1 second. This will definitely be one of those cards. In Control Hunter, once again, if that becomes a thing, it'll be a thing. But here, it's not going to be very good. I think just on its own, and considering every other card that's come out, I'm going to go ahead and give this a solid 2. I don't think it's a very good card. And I love Hunter, so that really hurts. Alright, the other legendary, Professor Putricide, 4 mana, 5/4. After you play a secret, put a random Hunter secret into the battlefield. It's a pretty good card. It seems like this is a revisit to the Mad Scientist formula, because this card is strong. It's a solid stat line. 5/4, it's okay. It would be amazing if it was 4/5, but so 5/4, pretty good. And if you played this with a secret, so if you wait until turn 6, you played this, you get a secret, and you get another secret. So you can have a 6 mana 2 card combo that basically gets you guaranteed value. This is a very solid card. It'll definitely be in Midrange Hunter. This will find a spot in Midrange Hunter, one that plays things like Frozen or Freezing Trap or an Explosive Trap, and I think there's a new secret that's going to see play that summons a Poisonous Cobra. It's going to be pretty good. I think just for that deck, it's going to be great. Another 4.5. It doesn't do anything amazing where you have to auto-include it. It's just going to be like that really strong card that's like always there when you're playing against a mid-range hunter. Alright, next up we got 7 mana, 6/7, Abominable Bowman. Abominable Bowman. Okay. Death Rattle, summon a random friendly beast that died this game. It's random. It's random, you're gonna get a cat. You're gonna get a 1/1 cat. That's how it's gonna work. You're gonna put this into your mid-range hunter, you're gonna get a cat. Or you're gonna get, like, you're not gonna get anything great. You might pull something decent, like you might pull like Infested Worgen, maybe Kindly Grandmother, things like that. But even then, it's slow, and it's not a beast itself. It's like a 2.5. It's nothing against the card, but it's not gonna. When you can't control the variance, it's not that great. Unless you build your whole deck around slow sort of beasts. Alright, next card, 5 mana 4/6, Corpse Widow. It's a rare, your Death Rattle cards cost 2 less. Okay, so this is a fine statted 5 mana card that lets you combo into your Death Rattle cards immediately. In fact, the more I think about it, the more this card is really good, because if you sit there with, you know, you can play this like on turn 9 and you can cheat out a pretty well statted 5 minion and like Savannah Highmane, or you can play this on turn 7, get out Infested Worgen. You can play this on turn 5 and get out Kindly Grandmother for free. There's a lot of Death Rattle cards in Hunter, and this is a really good card for them. This is a really good card to help cheat them out. You know, they never really played anything like Emperor Tharson, but if they had, they would have been able to get out all their aggro nice and quick. This is a really solid card. This is an auto-include. Oh, wow. Yeah, this is an auto-include in Midrange Hunter. I haven't seen this card yet, so this is kind of just hitting me for the first time. This is a 5. This is an absolute 5. Okay, next secret. 2 mana secret, Venomstrike Trap. When one of your minions is attacked, summon a 2/3 Poisonous Cobra. I think this card's okay. You'll probably see it just a lot in the beginning when people are messing around, but summoning a 2/3 Cobra isn't super strong, especially if it just has Poisonous in the beginning, like in the early game. That won't really matter because most of your stuff's killing anyways. And if you play it in the late game, then they're just going to remove it with like Frostbolt or any AoE, the new Druid AoE, bunch of stuff like that. It's not that good. Snake Trap's better. This is a 2. This is a 2. It's not absolute garbage, but it's not good. Alright, Bearshark, 3 mana 4/3, can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. It's a beast 2. This is a good card for your zombies. It's good stats, gives it a nice effect. That's all I can really say about it. I don't think you would play this alone in one of your decks. Like, you wouldn't take up a card slot for this card, but you would definitely like to see it. Like, if it appears into your hand, you're not going to be like, oh, damn it, Bearshark. You're going to be like, cool, that's nice. It kind of reminds me of like Laughing Sister, but not as strong. Laughing Sister, which is one of Sarah's dream cards. It's average. I'm gonna give it a 3. Like I said, it's just, you'd want to discover it in Zombies. That's really all I can say. Alright, 1 mana, play dead. Trigger a friendly minion's Death Rattle. Wasn't Feign Death a card? Feign Death was a card. Didn't that trigger all Death Rattles for 2 mana? Now this is a 1 mana that only triggers 1 Death Rattle. I love the art. That's all I can say. This dog is adorable. Look at him. He is ready, but he is never gonna see play. Poor boy. In a world where Feign Death saw 0 play, I'm gonna go ahead and give this a 1.5. Alright, next card. 3 mana, 2/2 Stitch Tracker, Battlecry. Discover a copy of a minion in your deck. This is a pretty good card. This is guaranteed card draw. It's one that you can build around, because if you just build strong minions and you get this out on turn 3, you play this, you draw a good card, and you've got kind of a set idea of what you're going to be doing in the upcoming game. I think if you play this, I keep coming back to Savannah Highmane, but obviously if you could put 3 Savannah Highmanes into your Hearthstone deck, you would. And this is a good way of getting 4 Savannah Highmanes in your deck, potentially. I think this card will see play in mid-range decks, in mid-range hunter decks, but that's all I can really say about it. This doesn't do anything too crazy. Its 2/2 stat line is really low, so it'll die really easily. But you're not playing it to contest the board, you're playing it to set up your turns in the future. This is a 4. This is a 4 out of 5. I'm not like super excited about it, but it's a good card. It doesn't do anything like woo crazy. It does what it's supposed to do. Also, this would be really good in Arena. It's a common as well. Alright, next up, we're moving on to one of my favorite classes, Mage. I have seen the Mage Legendary card, and I'm very excited for it, but I'm also going to try to curb my expectations here. But let's go ahead and talk about it. 9 mana, Frost Lich Jaina, Battlecry, summon a 3/6 water elemental. Your elementals have lifesteal this game. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the first things first. There's no elemental mage. That's not a thing right now. They've got some good elemental cards, but there's no like elemental mage. It's just not a thing. I don't think this expansion is introducing any new elementals for the mage as well. Actually, let me go ahead and check that out real quick. There's one. There's one new elemental, and it's not going to do anything to make it the go-to card. But it's okay. Your life, if you wanted to build an elemental frost mage or elemental mage, you could probably do it. You could probably honestly do it with the water lilies and fireflies, Igneuses, Calamos, Servant of Calamos, I should say, Blaze Callers. You could make a really solid controlled deck with just elementals, and then considering the hero power that this card gives you, it'll make the effect really strong. Because basically it makes it so that as long as you have minions up, you're not going to die. And that's what it changes the game to. So it's 9 mana, which I haven't really touched on. 9 mana, again, really hard to get into the late game. 1 second. Alright, 9 mana, really hard to get into the late game, but dang it. But once you get there, let's think about what you get. You get 5 armor, which is about 1 mana in stats. It's a good way to save yourself. You get an elemental, a water elemental, which is well worth its 4 mana. So you got about 5 mana up front there. So that means that for the last 4 mana, you need to pay off your price for Jaina, or for Frost Lich Jaina. And that means you need to get super value out of your elementals, which is where the hero power comes into effect. So it's now the same exact hero power. It's still the ping, but if you kill a minion with your ping now, you summon a water elemental. So it's 2 mana, you basically cheat out a 4 mana minion that deals 1 damage, which is still about 4 mana. So you need to get 2 of these off to get value from it. And then also, I guess if your water elemental damages someone and gets some healing for you, it's kind of a weird spot where you're going to get value from this. I'm going to go ahead and say you need to get value from this ping at least 2 times. As in summon 2 water elementals and basically have them hurt something too. Or at least have one of them hurt something. I think if you're going to be playing Frost Lich Jaina, you're definitely going to be using Ice Block. You're definitely going to be using cards that give you time to get into the Frost Lich mode, and then once you're in Frost Lich mode, you're going to be a very hard target to kill, because you're going to have life-stealing elementals, you're going to be having just a lot of health coming in from both the armor and any lifesteal that you're gaining. You're going to have freeze, which makes it hard for your opponent to react unless they have charge minions. So it's a very big dream. It's not one of those cards where you're going to be like, oh, that's, there we are, that's good. It's going to be one of those cards that's could be good. And because it could be good, I'm going to give it a 3.5. I absolutely love this card. It's one of the cards I'm considering crafting just to make, because I really love the idea of destroying a minion and making more minions out of it, and then keeping everything frozen. I really liked Freeze Mage, and this seems like a different variation on Freeze Mage. I can definitely see this becoming a card. Alright, next up we're going to move on to the Mage Legendary. Sindragosa, 8 mana, 8/8 Battle Cry, summon 2/0/1 Frozen Champions. Now, I don't have the token on the board, but what a Frozen Champion is that 0/1, it's frozen, but it has a death rattle, where if it gets destroyed, you add a legendary minion to your hand. It's pretty nice. It really seems kind of like a Dr. 8 of sorts, because it summons 2 stats across. You can't attack with these minions, but you just have to kind of hope that your opponent kills them, or better yet, you go Sindragosa into Frost Lich Jaina, big plans, and then you ping off your own minions, you get a water elemental and a legendary into your hand. You just got like super value. It's an 8, 9, 10 where you're doing nothing in the late game, so hopefully you don't die, but that's the dream right there. Otherwise, those champions will probably just die in some sort of AoE, because most people that you'll be fighting have some sort of AoE. You can also taunt up those minions. You can do all sorts of things to those minions, especially as a freeze mage kind of character. I can see you playing Defenders of Argus or something like that with Sindragosa in your deck. And then again, just any AoE kills the champion and adds a nice legendary card to your hand. And then I guess the next thing to consider is that worth anything? Is a legendary minion in your hand worth anything? And yeah, it is. Imagine if this card said 8 mana, add 2 legendary cards to your hand. Everyone would play it. It adds minions immediately to your hand. Just the delayed effect doesn't make this effect any less crazy. I think in a control type mage, well, see, that's the other thing too, is that there is control mage, but they're not playing big minions and then hoping that you kill them. So it's kind of a weird spot. I don't think there's a spot for Sindragosa, but with Frost Lich Jaina, if you make a more control heavy, big mana heavy mage, Sindragosa would definitely be in there. Because it doesn't have a spot right now, and because it won't create a deck on its own though, I'm going to also give this a 3.5. Alright, next up we've got a new spell, 8 mana Glacial Mysteries. Put one of each secret from your deck into the battlefield. Now look at this card, it's 8 mana. Aren't you glad that you don't play with Mysterious Challenger anymore? Oh boy, okay. Let's think about this card. You get it from Primordial Glyph, it's 6 mana, and then you pull out all your secrets. Your secrets, what are you going to be putting in? You're going to put in Ice Block, you're going to put in maybe Ice Barrier. You're going to put in maybe Mirror Entity. Would you play an 8 mana card? Would you play a 6 mana card that gave you those cards? I mean, I'd play a 6 mana card, but it's like a 8 mana 2-turn combo. So I'm not big on it. I don't think this card is very good, especially because you're not going to make a deck just filled with secrets, because it's not like Secret Paladin where you had a bunch of one-off secrets and it's whatever. If you put in a ton of made secrets into your deck and then also put in this card, you're looking around like taking up 8 slots of just 3 mana spells, and you can't afford that in Mage. You need things like Frost Nova, you need things like Volcanic Potion, you need things like just not clunky cards. I don't think this card's very good. I don't think it's going to see any play in any serious deck, so I'm going to go ahead and give this a 1.5. It's got the redeeming factor that it's not absolute garbage, but I just think that the card is way too clunky to see any play in an actual deck. Alright, new spell, 3 mana, Simulacrum. Copy the lowest cost minion in your hand. So I'm guessing it plays it out into the field. It's okay. There's definitely ways that you can cheat this out, and if you played like a powerful Death Rattle or a powerful Persistent Effect, this could be nice, but it's gonna be hard to do. I think a good example would be like playing this and you had like Antonidas in your hand, and you could follow that up with like Frostbolt on turn 5, and so you've got a 5/7 on board and a Fireball in hand and you just killed something. That sounds crazy, but most likely you're not going to have Antonidas in hand. There's a lot of powerful Battle Cry effects in Mage that you're not going to have. You wouldn't want to play this and summon out something lower than 3 mana, so you wouldn't want to play this and summon out Doomsayer, which is another minion that you'd be playing in Mage. This is another one of those dream cards. It's kind of like the there's like that Druid card that was like gain 1 mana for every minion that you have on the board. It's a big dream. If you got this and Antonidas, and if you got this and Ragnaros, if you got this and I don't know, Yasharaj, just because you're playing super control heavy Mage, then it would be good. But in reality, what you're going to get is a card that's not going to see play, and even if you do, you get a discount on maybe like a 4 mana card. It's nothing too crazy. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a 2. Alright, 3 mana, Doomed Apprentice. Your opponent's spells cost 1 mana more. It's 3/2. I like the text. I like the flavor of it. It's cute. It could have been a 3/3, and it still would have been like just okay. 3/2. Your opponent's just gonna trade into this and then play their spells and laugh at you because he played Doomed Apprentice. It's too understated for what it offers here. I think this is just a pretty bad card. It offers some tech against like spell heavy combo decks, but at that point you're just delaying it like a turn, because they're gonna trade into this, they're gonna backstab it, they're gonna do whatever they want to do to it. If it was the 2/3, it would be slightly better. Basically what it needed is 3 health to even stand a chance. But because it's a 3/2, I'm gonna go ahead and give this. I would not play this card. I wouldn't want this card in my hand at all. This is my first 1 out of 5. I don't think this is a good card, which is too bad. It feels like I'm going through all these Mage cards and it doesn't seem like anything too crazy is coming up yet. So let's go ahead and see what's gonna pop up. Okay, next one, 2 mana Ice Walker Elemental. It's a 1/3. Your hero power also freezes the target. Okay. It's alright, that's all I can really say about it. It's not going to change the game. If you freeze a minion, if they're playing like a really slow deck, it could be good, because you're just going to keep them frozen, you can deal with it yourself. It's a 1/3, which is fine. This effect is pretty strong to give freeze. It makes your hero power, it makes it basically into Frost Shock, which is a 1 mana spell. So you can get a lot of value from this, I think, even with just 1 ping. So if this doesn't die and you get 1 ping off, you get a lot of value from it, or you get some value from it. It's an elemental too, so if you put it into that elemental mage that we were talking about, it would fit in. So it can combo pretty well. I think this would see play in an elemental mage deck, especially one with Frostlich Jaina. But because it doesn't exist yet, I'm gonna go ahead and just give it the safety 3. Just gonna give it the safety 3. Nothing too crazy. It's not gonna be deck defining. It's a good card. Alright, Ghastly Conjurer, 4 mana 2/6 Battlecry. Add a mirror image spell to your hand. Welcome back, Quest Mage. It's on the table, dude. It's not. This card's okay. It's good. Think about it. It's a 5 mana 2/6 summon 2/02s with Taunt. So you get 2/10 worth of stats, 3 bodies, and 2/10 worth of stats, 3 bodies, and a spell cast, which is really important in a mage. This would see play in Quest Mage, and that's really about it. Tempo Mage, maybe? If you're I could see play in Tempo Mage, because you would play mirror images in Tempo Mage. You know, this card is good. It's good, it's not crazy, I'm not super excited for it. It's gonna see play though. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this a 4. Alright, 3 mana Coldwraith, 3/4 Battlecry. If an enemy is frozen, draw a card. Alright, so what's important here is that it's a common 3/3/4 for Arena, so that's really strong. Again, we all know that Mage is struggling in Arena, but if an enemy is frozen, draw a card. I don't think you're going to get that off very often. It would have to be like turn 5, your Ice Walker is still alive, and you just pinged one of them, and then you draw a card. So not very realistic. You could also Frostbolt, and if the minion's not dead, then you can play this and kind of get some value from it. Instead of like pinging it, I don't see many things that on turn 5 a Frostbolt wouldn't like put in imminent danger. I don't think it's going to see play in like Tempo Mage. It definitely won't see play in Tempo Mage, because they're going to be Frostbolt to remove. They're not looking Frostbolt into draw. They would rather just fireball a card and move on. I think this card is a 2. Its stat line is really good, so it's nothing like, oh, bad, but its effect is just not good. Like, you wouldn't want to pick just a vanilla 3 mana 3/4 anymore in your decks. It's not Spider Tank anymore. I'm gonna give this a 2. Alright, Frost Clone, 3 mana secret. After your opponent plays a minion, put 2 copies of it into your hand. This is a solid card. I think if you play this, this is one of the cards that you would play with the Glacial Secrets from earlier. Especially in the late game, because now your opponent's thinking, what kind of secrets could he be holding in this card? So if you played like a one of these and didn't draw it, this would be good. If you played on turn 3, and then your opponent has to choose whether or not to give you a turn 4, and if they give you a turn 4, they're going to give you a really strong turn 4. If they give you a turn 2, is it going to be good? Do they synergize with each other? Is he going to give you elementals or things like that? I think this card's very good. Duplicates all play, obviously, and this seems like a more immediate duplicate. I think in a secret deck this would be good, in a tempo deck this would be good, in a not in a quest mage. In that control mage that I was talking about, not so much. But I do like the card. It's gonna get a 3.5 from me. Alright, let's see what else we got. Okay, so that's it for mage. So next we're moving on to, oh yeah, here we go. Here's the frozen champion right here. The death rattle. At a, oh wait, it doesn't even look like it's frozen, it just can't attack. That's even better, really, because you can somehow, you can make it attack. That's pretty good. Alright, Paladin. Just don't know what the hero power or the hero card is yet. But let's go ahead and see. Bolvar, Fireblood, Divine Shield. After a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, gain +2 attack, 5 mana, 1/7. They're really committed to making sure that Bolvar is garbage in every single expansion, aren't they? I have no idea who Bolvar is, but they really like making sure that his cards are unplayable. Even when you lose your own Divine Shield, you become a 3/7. A 3/7 for 5 is okay. What's the issue? Actually 3/7 for 5 is not even okay. There's like cards that are 5/6 that are way better. There's Dr. OP, there's Prince Malchezaar. There's just so many different cards that are better than this garbage. Another 1.5. I can see it just because it's a 3/7. If you discover it, you're not going to be like, well, if you discover it, you're still going to be upset because you'd rather get Tyrion. But if you discover it, you're going to be like, okay, whatever. You're not going to put it in your deck. It's as simple as that. You're not going to want to put Bolvar in your deck, and that makes it a pretty bad card. Light's Sorrow. It's kind of funny because there's the Light's Justice. Anyways, this is a 4 mana 1/4. After a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, gain 1 attack. Design space. This is why Blade Flurry died, guys. After a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, gain 1 attack. Okay, so I can't even put this into words. You would have to get 2 Divine Shielded minions to lose their Divine Shield to make this into an Assassin's Blade, which makes it okay. And then that's it. Why? But even at that point, just get 1 more attack and just take 2 swings. And they, like, Paladin has this really good card called True Silver Champion. It's a 4 mana 4/2, and it's been in the game since 2014, and for some reason it still sees play in Paladin decks. I know, right? So this is not going to replace that. This card is not going to replace True Silver Champion. But I played a lot of Paladin recently, and it's pretty easy to get Divine Shields onto minions if you really want to. So I think maybe in Wild this would be better, because you can do things like you can set up things like Muster for Battles. You can set up all sorts of token plays and get a lot of Divine Shields on your guys that way. You can play Divine or Shielded Minibot. There's a lot of already good Divine Shield minions in Wild, but in Standard you've got the go back to your homes. I don't remember the 3 mana 3/3. Give your 1 health minions Divine Shield. Nah, I don't think this card's very good. Even if you get it up to 4, if you get it up to 4 with 4 durability, you need to do a lot of setup, and at that, like, a lot of setup with a lot of cards and a lot of time, and it's very obvious what you're doing. I think just play True Silver. There's no reason to replace this with True Silver. It's gonna get a 2. Alright, Desperate Stand. 2 mana, give a minion Death Rattle, return this to life with 1 health. Tyrion. I was sitting there like, what kind of cards do I want this to go off on? Tyrion, immediately. Ragnaros Light Lord. I guess just big minions, and that's really all you're going to be playing with, you know, consistent effects like that. I think Tyrion is the best one you're going to want to get this off on. And there's no one else really in Paladin. They don't have like a lot of minions that are worth saving. Their big thing is trading away their minions. You know, sending recruits in the battle and getting rid of them, and trading up that way. I don't think there's going to be anything too crazy, at least not out right now, that you'd want to use Desperate Stand for. But, no, not, you get it on Tyrion, that's all you've got. This is a bad card. It's another one, actually. Now that I think about it, if it's good for only 1 card, you're not going to want to put it in your deck. It's not going to save it. You don't play the secret, whatever the secret is that brings it back. When you discover secrets, you don't typically choose that one. It's bad. Desperate Stand is bad. I'm gonna say it right now, it's bad. 3 mana Howling Commander 2/2 Battlecry. Draw a Divine Shield minion from your deck. So you can draw Tyrion, you can draw... There's a lot of Divine Shield. They're trying to do a more Divine Shield oriented with this expansion. It's obvious. I'm pretty sure the hero power is going to have something to do with Divine Shields. So it's draw Tyrion. It's another one of those 3 mana 2/2 draw card, which is still pretty strong. And you also can pick out basically what card you're going to get. But also think about this. If you play this on turn 3 and you draw Tyrion, woohoo! But then you gotta wait 5 turns. So it's actually, this isn't going to be super strong. I'd rather just play like Acolyte and get my draw in that way. Or just better draw, Lay on Hands, Divine Favor. There's better draw cards than this. It's not going to be very strong. Again, but if you got it from random effects or whatever, you're not going to be at a disadvantage. So I guess for that, I get the 2. Alright, next up, 4 mana Chillblade Champion 3/2 Charged Lifesteal. Would you play a Hammer of Wrath that instead of drawing a card healed you for 3? No. Because you wouldn't play it for 4, you would play Bash. Bash is deal 3 damage, gain 3 armor. This is deal 3 damage immediately. You're not going to charge this into a 1 attack creature. Most times it's turn 4, they're playing bigger creatures than 1 attack now. This isn't a good card. If you get it, it's a tempo loss, but it's not going to take up a slot. Another 1.5 doesn't put you at super disadvantage, and it's a minion and it gives you something to do, especially in the late game, I guess. If you get it from a random effect, but other than that, it's not that great. Righteous Protector, 1 mana, 1/1 Taunt, Divine Shield. Okay, so mini Annoyobot. Let's go ahead and think. Argent Squire sees play in aggro decks. I imagine a 1/1 with Taunt and Divine Shield will also see play, because you're gonna want those 1 mana minions to just flood the board early on and taunt. So this is a good card. Argent Squire sees play. Minibot or Annoyochan saw play. There's another really annoying. I'm just thinking about Annoyobot right now, but Annoyobots all play in all sorts of decks, in aggro decks and control decks. This is a very versatile card. It's very good. I'm gonna go ahead and give this a 4. It's nothing crazy again, but it's definitely just a 4 out of 5. First impressions, I expect to see this. You will put this into your Paladin decks. It's also a common, so expect to see a lot of it in Arena. Alright, moving on to Priest now. Moving on to its hero card, Shadowreaper Anduin. 8 mana, destroy all minions with 5 or more attack and gain 5 armor. Okay. Imagine Light Bomb. Imagine Light Bomb, but it also gave you armor, and then it changed. I actually don't know what the hero power is, so let's see what the hero power is too. Hero power, deal 2 damage. After you play a card, refresh this. Okay, so bye-bye, Auction Master Beardo. I guess we don't need you anymore. But this is Shadow Form, Void Form. That's nice. Shadow Form, deal 2 damage, and you can repeatedly deal 2 damage if you've got the resources to do so. So, very control heavy. It immediately wipes out their matchup in a control, and I think that what's going to be important to remember is the control matchup, because this is a control card. You're not going to get this off against aggro. It's going to be turn 8. They're not playing 5 attack minions. They're trying to kill you. This isn't going to kill anything for aggro. If this pops on 1 minion, it's pretty good. It's a Shadow Word Death with 5 armor. Actually, wait, no, that's pretty garbage. If this pops on 2 enemy minions, then it's pretty good. 2 enemy minions on turn 8 on a control matchup is not super unlikely. But if you're playing this and it becomes a card in the meta, expect control decks to play around it. So it's highly dependent. I think if you get the one-off, that's fine. And so then you've got to wonder, how much value do I get from my hero power now? So you spend 2 mana to get about 1 mana worth of stats, and you can use it multiple times on a turn, depending on how many cards you're willing to expend. So let's think about this exponentially, because you got 2 mana deal 2 damage, you got 4 mana deal 4 damage, and you've got like a 6 mana deal 6 damage, and I think that's all you're gonna be able to pull off, because you've got, you know, your power word shields, you've got your priestess, young priestess? No. Holy moly, I can't think of the 1/3 priest that draws. Or Northshire Cleric. Sorry. Northshire Cleric. And you can kind of pop that and you can get about 3 hero powers in on a really good turn to deal 6 damage spread across the board, which is nice. It's really hard to rate this card because it doesn't fundamentally change priest all that much. It just kind of seems like you would put this in control priest and continue to control after that. You'd also need more healing because now you've lost your healing factor as well. Okay, so you've got a lot of pros with, you know, more board control, more threats to the board, you know, immediate removal and everything like that, but then you've got a lot of downsides because you have no more healing, which is basically the big one, and all your cards are based around healing. There hasn't been anything from Shadow, there's no Shadow form support yet. It's been 3 years, Blizzard give us some, but that's what it is. So I think because it does nothing to add to priest, but it doesn't take away anything as well, I'm just going to be safe. Give this a 2.5. I don't think it's going to see much play, but it's going to see silly play. Oh my god, I didn't think of Raza the Unchained. Reno Shadow Priest. Or Raza Shadow Priest. In Wild. In Wild, this card's going to be nuts. In Wild with Reno. In Wild with Reno, this card would be nuts. If Reno was still a card, this card would be a 4.5. But with just Raza, I think that turns it into a 3. Okay. Let's move on to probably my favorite card announced so far. Archbishop Benedictus. 7 mana 4/6 battle cry. Shuffle a copy of your opponent's deck into your deck. I love this card. It's silly. It is a silly card, but I can't help but just get excited every single time I look at it. I think it's not good. I don't think it's meant to be good. It's very slow. It's very slow. But if you're playing against a control matchup, and I'm talking about a control matchup that isn't Jade Druid, I'm talking about control that is Warrior, Freeze Mage without Burn, control heavy Paladin, like Tyrion, Ragnaros, Lay on Hands kind of cards. This is a good card. But other than that, this is a silly deck. It's a silly card for silly people. But I love the effect, and I love that Blizzard went balls to the wall with this effect right here. So really cool. I'm gonna go ahead and give this a. I'm gonna give it a 3. Alright, next up, 9 mana Obsidian Statue. 9 mana 4/8 Taunt, Lifesteal, Death Rattle, destroy a random enemy minion. Okay, let's talk about synergies for this card, everyone. It's free from Amber. And free from Amber is going to discover this card a lot of the time, and it's just going to be really solid. Taunt. I'm trying to think compared to Primordial Drake, which sees a lot of play right now in all sorts of control decks. It's solid. It's a solid body. Relatively speaking. It's a big taunt, I should say. It gains lifesteal, so when people are attacking this, you're healing for the damage that it's doing. And then it has a really strong death rattle as well. That makes your opponent have to play around it. It's a lot like Sylvanas because, you know, you could drop Sylvanas and it's like, oh, that's their problem to deal with now. Especially, like, if you play this on an empty board, then they're not going to want to play one of their big threats, because then you've just got really easy removal, and they know that that's how it's going to go. I think the Free from Amber cheat cost is pretty good, and I'm just kind of wondering if you would play this in a normal control deck, like if you would take up a card slot for this. Possibly. Possibly if you're looking for more ways to destroy stuff, I would definitely consider putting this into a deck, but it's, again, high cost. You might just be better off looking for it from Free from Amber. Oh, Death Rattle, so it can go really nice with the Priest Quest. N'Zoth, you would put this and N'Zoth into your deck, so you might want to put one of these and then N'Zoth, but then you need to figure out how to survive all the way until turn 10. Because this, I mean, if you just heal for 4, especially if this gets removed somehow through, like, spells, then that's... yeah. I'd put 1 in with the N'Zoth deck. And because of that, because I would put it into a deck, that automatically gets it like a 3.5 for me. It's really solid. Get it from Free from Amber. You'll enjoy it. If you get this... like, if you have Free from Amber, this, and N'Zoth, which is a super greedy deck, you're gonna get, like, so much value on that turn 10. Like, a lot of value. Just imagine turn 8 into this, turn 9 into this, and then turn 10 N'Zoth to bring them both back. It doesn't matter if you had any other Death Rattles. There you go. Okay. Number 6, number 6. 6 mana spell, Embrace Darkness. Choose an enemy minion at the start of your turn, gain control of it. Okay. We gotta think of a world where Mind Control doesn't see play. Mind Control, just, it's 10 mana, it's too slow, it takes over 1 minion. Now, cut the cost of Mind Control by 4 mana, and make it so that your opponent has time to react to it. I don't think this is a good card, because basically if you give them a turn, they can destroy the card, and then you just wasted. You immediately wasted 6 mana. Because most likely they'll use it to trade into your card. It'll be highly unlikely that they do something to destroy their own card just to make sure that you don't get it, because they'd rather have it for that one turn and then deal with it themselves the next turn. So this isn't as good as Mind Control. It's not as good as Entomb, which I saw the comparison once, that they were like, oh, think of this as Entomb. No. Entomb had the immediate effect of removing it from the board. What it was immediate removal, and then when you drew it, that was like a benefit. That's why people were playing with Entomb. This is not Entomb. This is way too slow in a meta that doesn't play Mind Control. So, I don't think it's going to find a spot. I'm going to give this another 1.5. If you get it from a Discover effect, you're not super unhappy, but you're not, like, mega excited either. Okay. 5 mana Devour Mind. Copy 3 cards in your opponent's deck and add them to your hand. It's pretty good. So, Nourish sees play. Cabal's Tome sees play. Cabal's Tome is a lot more random than this, because when you're playing against your opponent by turn 5, you know what your opponent's doing, basically. The only issue here is that those cards will most likely not synergize with your own cards. I think this would be really strong if it was, well, I was going to say if it was 3 mana, copy 2 cards, but they already have that. That's Thought Steal. So this is basically 5 mana super Thought Steal. I wonder if it would have been like crazy overpowered at 4 mana, because at 5 mana it's okay. At 5 mana it's alright, which is going to give it its 3 score, but at 4 mana would it have been super overpowered, and I think it might have been. So 5 mana is a good choice, because this is one of those like balancing acts where it's life or death. You either have it at 5 mana and make it super insanely crazy, or I mean, you either have it at 4 mana and make it super insanely crazy powerful, or you have it at 5 mana and you make it just okay. I don't think you would put this into your deck. But again, if you find it somehow through Discover or random effects, you're going to be very happy because you're going to get 3 cards for free out of your opponent's deck. Now, when you get those 3 cards that are like Blade Flurry and Shield Slam and all those cards that you don't have use for, what can you do? You know, sometimes you're going to get Tyrion, sometimes you're going to get Betrayal, or like Headcrack or something silly. Alright, next card. 4 mana spell, Eternal Servitude. Discover a friendly minion that died this game, summon it. Now let me tell you, you can absolutely make a deck based around this card. The Resurrect Priest, this is the card that Resurrect Priest was looking for. This was the card that when Resurrect became a thing, people started thinking, hey, what if you let me discover the card instead? You know, you let me pick which card I wanted. So that also brings me back to Obsidian Statue here. Another crazy card to go ahead and rediscover. You just basically can make that card come back to life, and back to life, and back to life again, and back to life once more. With Free from Amber and this. This is a really good card. You're not going to be playing it on turn 4, obviously, because you'd rather try to get the combo of You'd rather try to get the combo of like Injured Blade Master into Naked Resurrect than play Injured Blade Master and discover it for the cost here. So, Resurrect Priest is going to love this card. It's as simple as that. Being able to choose and summon the card on top of that, it's just good. It's really good. Death Rattle Priest is going to love this card. There's so much stuff here. Okay. Because of that, I'm going to give it a solid 4. I think it's been a while since I've seen a good card on this list. Eternal Servitude is definitely just one of those cards. Alright, moving on. 6 mana spell, Shadow Essence. Summon a 5/5 copy of a random minion in your deck. I mean, what are you looking for? You know? What are you looking for that's better at 5/5 and that you'd be willing to pay 6 mana for just the effect? And it's random? No way. No. This card is garbage. If it was summon a 6/6 copy, it would still be bad. I think a lot of these cards are being added to like really drown out the pool of Lyra cheap spells. Because this is a 6 mana garbage card, this is a 5 mana decent card, this is a 6 mana garbage spell. And so they just make it harder to chain with Lyra. But this is bad. This is a bad card, and you will actually be upset to get this card because you're just gonna pull out like a what? Well, I guess you pull out Lyra, but that would preclude that you haven't drawn Lyra yet and somehow got this card into your hand. I do like the dark chromion here though. It's good art. This is a 1. Okay. You don't want this card. You don't want to play this card. It's bad. 3 mana, 3/3, Acolyte of Agony, Lifesteal. It's a good card. You wouldn't want it from Shadow Essence. It's a good card. Could have been 3/4 too. Why not? Just give Priest all those 3/4s. Give him good Cabal, whatever, Cabal Soul Priest, and make this into a 3/7. Why not? This card's alright. It's good. Would you put it into your deck? Probably not. Is Priest lacking in 3-drops? Kind of. If you wanted to make more... You know what? What would be cool? Like a Tempo Priest. And now that there's like 2-drops and 3-drops that go into 4-drops and that go into really strong 5-drops and everything from there, this could be like the missing link of Tempo 3-drops, because you could play Northshire on 1, you could play Radiant Elemental on 2, you could play this on 3, Priest of the Feast on 4. You know, you've got a bunch of lifesteal to try to keep you up, and then you can curve out into your late game there. That's a very lofty dream. But I do like the card. I do like the card. It's going to get a 3 for me. I don't want to go on too big of a tangent here. It's going to get a 3. Alright, 2 mana 2/2 Shadow Ascendant. At the end of your turn, give another random friendly minion +1/+1 at the end of your turn. So this is an immediate effect. You play this, or you play Northshire, and then you play this, you've got a 2/4 Northshire. That's good. This is a good card. Speaking of that Tempo Priest, this would definitely be something in that Tempo Priest kind of play. And it's just immediate at the end of your turn. So what? It doesn't trade up like right then and there, but it's at the end of your turn you get it. It's not at the start where your opponent can go ahead and take care of it, and then you get just a 2 mana 2/2. It might as well have been a 2 mana vanilla minion. And it's not just a battle cry, so it's not over immediately. It's just there. It's just there. This is a good card. The Tempo Priest will definitely see it. I think Resurrect Priest, no. You wouldn't want it from Shadow Essence. You wouldn't want it. A Tempo Priest. Tempo Priest doesn't exist, but with a lot of these cards that they're getting, I can definitely see them finally getting some sort of different deck than just control heavy, you know, kind of cards. You could play this and like Purify Priest and just make your cards really big and taunt them up so that you can get another big minion for your combo if you need some time to procrastinate or to build up for your Divine Spirit Inner Fire combos. This is a good card. It's a common too, so you'll see it in Arena a lot too. Another 4 out of 5. Priest is getting some pretty good commons. Alright, last off, 2 mana Spirit Lash, Lifesteal, deal 1 damage to all minions. It's alright. It's Whirlwind with some steel on it. I don't think you're going to get a lot of value out of the lifesteal aspect of it. And Whirlwind sees play. But I don't think Priest really needs that kind of card. Well, Priest could use a ping, actually. And this is like a multiple kind of ping. This is a great anti-aggro card. This is solid. This is a solid card. I'm looking a little bit too much at the lifesteal aspect of it, and that's what's bumping it up to the two mana price here, rather than having the standard kind of 1. If it was 1 mana, I don't think it would make it any, you know, any better for it, because it would still be played for the same thing. You would like to get this from Lyra. You could combo this with Lyra. You wouldn't put it in your deck though, but you would. You would put it if it's like a super aggro token meta like we've seen in the past. So it's got potential. I'm going to give it a 3.5. 1 second. Sorry about that. Okay. Let's continue talking about cards here. So that was it for Priest. We're gonna be moving on to Rogue. Gonna be pretty honest, I'm not good at Rogue, so full disclaimer. But first card we have is the legendary, or the hero card, Valeera the Hollow. Battlecry, gains stealth until your next turn. So I like to think of this as like a pseudo ice block, because you can protect yourself for one turn. You throw this out, your opponent most likely won't have a way to kill you unless they have like Mind Blast, or they're a hunter, or well, I mean a hunter can't get past the 5 with just their hero power. Unless they had like Cobra Shot. You know, things that deal direct damage to face, swipe, but those cards are few and far between. So I like to consider this as like a pseudo ice block. But let's go ahead and look at the power here. Passive hero power, so you don't have to pay any mana for it. During your turn, add a Shadow Reflection to your hand. And what a Shadow Reflection is, each time you play a card, transform this into a copy of it. That's pretty good. You know, you can get like big combos off on this. You can get like, so you're at 10 mana now, maybe you have a Van Cleef, so you spend 7 mana to buff up your Van Cleef, and then this becomes Van Cleef at the end, and you drop that, and that's your whole 10 mana spell. You got like 2 pretty well statted minions on the board. You could do this in Wild, especially with some of the better rogue cards that they had, with better death rattles. Things like Raptors and Tomb Pillagers. A lot of good death rattle cards would benefit from this. It's nice that you can go ahead and just keep dropping cards. You can also use it as a cycle, so if you've got spells and gadgets and auctioneer, you can continue searching for it. And this is a good way for miracle, like a miracle priest type card or priest type deck, to just continue living. So it's pretty good. I would like to say that this card would see play in a miracle type deck. It's 9 mana. Miracle Rogue usually does get to that point. It usually does get to late game, and this would help it close out the game for sure. You wouldn't see Valeera the Hollow around for very long, because she's probably going to kill you the next turn. Lillian Voss, 4 mana, 4/5, excellent stats, I love it. Battlecry, replace spells in your hand with random spells from your opponent's class. Okay, never mind, I don't love it. Okay. In a rogue deck that needs spells to function, you're not going to want to replace those cards. You're not going to want to replace your backstabs, your deadly poisons, your shivs, I don't know, what are rogues playing? Fan of Knives, preps, you wouldn't want to replace those. In a rogue where you're trying to steal your opponent's cards, this is kind of funny, but this isn't good. Oh, whoops, I'm sorry, I just realized I didn't give a score for Valeera here. I'm gonna go ahead and give Valeera the Hollow another 4. Another 4. Okay. So sorry, going back to Lillian Voss here. Lillian Voss. Replace the spells in your hands with random spells. It's a little too silly. It doesn't really have like a solid effect. You don't have spells that you want to get rid of at pretty much any point of the game as rogue, because those are kind of your strong points. It's like, why would you want to trade down, especially for something completely random? This is a fun card. This is a fun card at best. You'll see it. You'll like to see it like in a tavern brawl type style. This is a very silly, fun card. What I like though is that they acknowledge that it's a silly, fun card, and they gave it good stats anyways. So it's not gonna completely destroy the game. You won't see this in any sort of serious competitive deck, but I do like that they gave it good stats. And for that reason alone, if you somehow discover this card, maybe through like hallucination or something like that, you can play it maybe when you don't have all that many spells to lose, and you won't lose a ton of tempo. So because of that, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 3.5. Not great, but if you get it, then you're not going to complain either. Alright. 2 mana spell, roll the bones, draw a card. If it has Death Rattle, cast this again. I want to play Wild Rogue. I want Wild Rogue to be me. There's Blood Mage, Loot Hoarders, Sludge Belchers, Tomb Pillagers. There's just so many good, and then just put N'Zoth in there. I just want to play N'Zoth Rogue in Wild is all I want to do with this card. In Standard, a lot less. You've got Huckster, you still got Loot Hoarders, you still got Blood Mage technically, and there's a good chance, like just with even like 6 Death Rattles in your deck, which isn't unlikely in a rogue deck, 6 Death Rattles, that you could get 2 draws from this. And if you get 2 draws from this, this is an insane card. Like if this was just, obviously they haven't printed a 2 mana draw 2 cards because that's just crazy. But cast it again. So it's all highly variable in the type that you're playing. If you're playing Death Rattle Rogue, of course you're going to throw this card in because just the chance to draw more than 1 card is good enough. Very solid card. I'm going to go ahead and give this a 4.5. A 4.5. Roll the bones. Very good. Bone Storm. Okay. 4 mana, 4/3 Runeforge Haunter. During your turn, your weapon doesn't lose durability. This is a really good card with the Envenom weapon that we have now, because you can basically cheat out a 3rd tick of Envenom weapon if you have the combination already. That's the only one I can really think of, because Rogue isn't playing any standalone weapons other than its hero power. And because of that, this card is only good for your hero power. If you played it with Envenom weapon, you can cheat out a tick. And you know, if you could make your weapon into a 1/3 poisonous, you would. This card is going to die the turn that you play it. So there's not much hope in going, oh, I'm going to get a 4th tick out. It's going to die. Something's going to, like, a 2 mana creature can trade into this. So it's got unfavorable stats, but the effect is really good. I think this will be really strong in arena type play rather than constructed. Absolutely. But because it's kind of a toss-up on usefulness, I'm going to go ahead and give it just a 3. It's a good card. You're not going to hate it. If, again, I like to think that if you got this card randomly, would you play it? Yes. Would you want to put this card in your deck? Maybe. Is it an auto-include? Definitely not. Okay. 3 mana weapon, Shadowblade, Battlecry. Your hero is immune this turn for 3/2. Now, let's talk about a card called Fiery War Axe. Fiery War Axe is a 3 mana, or it's a 2 mana 3/2, just vanilla weapon. It's been around since 2014 and has been in every warrior deck ever. The 3/2 stat line on weapons has proven time and time again that if it's 3 mana, people are going to play it. There's Eaglehorn Bow, there's Rallying Blade, there's Fork, if you wanted to play the Fork in Arena, and people are going to play it. So 3 mana is fine. People are going to be fine with this. And that makes it so that this, the stat line, or that the 3 mana is not a problem. I think the thing here, Battlecry, your hero's immune this turn, is perfect. It's definitely worth the 1 mana. This is just a really good rogue card. Because you're trading so much to begin with, why not give yourself the extra boost to 3 and not take damage for that 1 turn as well? And it's true, like if you play Fiery War Axe on turn 3, it's not the best, but it's fine. And it's going to get worse as it goes along. Fiery War Axe on its own, because you're going to be trading into bigger and bigger minions, but with this, you trade and you don't lose health. It's good. This is a good resource saver, and I would be willing to bet that rogues are going to find a place to put this into their deck, because it's just such good early game removal. It's efficient, it's really good. There's not a lot more that I can say about this card other than it's really good. This is going to get a 4.5. A 4.5, just because the only thing holding it back is the fact that it's a weapon in Rogue that you have to put in. And Rogue doesn't have a lot of weapon synergy that's worth putting in right now. In a day where you could have played this, attacked into something, and then Blade Flurried it, absolutely, this would be a 5 out of 5. But with the Blade Flurry in there, there's just no way. Okay, moving on to Plague Scientist. 3 mana, 2/3 combo, give a friendly minion poisonous. Okay, so you play a pirate, and then you get patches, and then you play this. So for a 4 mana card, or for a 4 mana combo, you get a 1/1 pirate, a 1/1 pirate with charge and poisonous, and a 2/3. It's okay. It's okay, but that's a very big dream turn right there. I don't think that will happen very much. 2 mana cards as well, like, cause it's just the combo part. The combo part is the part that's really hard to fulfill. And I think it's weird that they really like neutered its stats with combo, because this could have been combo 3/3 and it would have been fine. I think that would have been a really strong card. But this is combo and a 2/3, so you need to pull off a combo effect on a 2 mana stat line minion that costs 3 in the early game. It's not that good. It's not that good, and if you play it vanilla, then it's really bad. I don't think you're gonna put this in your deck. If you get it, you're gonna be upset with the tempo loss, but it's not the absolute worst. And there are ways to combo its effect, obviously, in the late game. It's just with such a stat line, you'd want to get it out as early as possible, because you play this in the late game, it's gonna die that turn again. I'm gonna give this a 2. Plague Scientist gets a 2. Alright, next card. 2 mana spell, Leeching Poison. Give your weapon lifesteal. Okay, so we were talking about random spell generation before, and this could possibly go Shadowblade, but it's not all that important. I wouldn't put this into my slot. I wouldn't put this into my slot for just Shadowblade. I'd have to be playing like a really weapon-heavy deck, something like Pirate Warrior, to think about putting Leeching Poison into my deck. If you got it from a random effect, that's nice. It's nice, but in reality, you're most likely going to be putting this onto either your Hero Power or Shadowblade. I wouldn't want to put it on Shadowblade because it's just going to die in 2 turns. You could put it like on Assassin's Blade, but then, I mean, no one's playing Assassin's Blade. And you could heal for a potential 12. That's nice, but you're also like losing durability, and you're at the whim of your own weapon. I think Leeching Poison is not going to see play from its mana cost and the fact that there's not really a deck that supports it right now. I think what would make this card good is if they gave Rogue a card like Gorehowl, where they gave it like a really, really high attack with some sort of weird drawback. So it could be like a 3 mana 5/1 weapon, something like that. And so then you can combo a 3 mana 5/1 and then get Leeching Poison onto there. You heal for 5, you deal 5 damage. It's a 5 mana combo. That's basically like Holy Fire. But what's needed, like the spell itself is fine. What's needed is that there needs to be a better weapon. And because the spell itself is fine, in a complete vacuum, I'm going to give it a 3. Are you going to put it into your deck? Actually, no, it's not a 3, it's a 2.5, because are you going to put it in your deck? No, right now. If the meta was better, if there were better weapons, you'd put it into your deck. I'm really torn about Leeching Poison, is what I'm trying to say. 2.5. Alright, next up we're moving on to Shaman. Token Shaman's pretty popular right now, so let's go ahead and see what this class is capable of. Shaman, Thrall, Deathseer, Battlecry. Transform your minions into random ones that cost 2 more. Okay, so Evolve transforms them into 1, or 1 more. So this is like casting Evolve 2 times, which is 2 mana. You've got the 5 armor here, which is about 1 mana, and as we know, Evolve greatly varies based on what it 1 pulls and 2 how many cards it hits. If you play this in normal token Shaman right now, you will get value from this. If you play like Doppelgangster into this on turn 10, you're gonna get value. If for whatever reason you're still turn 10 on Token Druid, and you're going to turn those into 3 7-drops right then and there, and you're going to win from there. It's just the game is saying, hey, you want to win, because that's what it is. The Evolve mechanic is so strong. We've seen it. It's made a ton of decks. It's one of the strongest performing decks right now. There's nothing really else to say about it. This is a solid card. You're going to put this into Evolve Shaman. Control Shaman, not so much, and just more like aggro variants of Shaman are definitely going to be seeing a lot of Thrall Deathseer. So let's see what its hero power is. Transmute Spirit, hero power, transform a friendly minion into a random one that costs 1 more. So a 2 mana targeted Evolve. This isn't the strongest hero power, that's for sure, but it's okay, and it brings a lot more than just toteming, because if you've already turned yourself into Thrall Deathseer, you might as well be trying to transform bigger cards rather than just your totems. So it's good. That's a good hero power. Overall, I'm gonna go ahead and give Thrall Deathseer, just because there's already a deck for it, and it's going to immediately affect everything. Assuming that you're just playing on curve, tokens and stuff like that, I'm gonna go ahead and give this a 5, an absolute 5, because it's going to be played. You're going to play this card in Evolve, and you're gonna like it. You're gonna like the effect that it does. Okay. Next up, we've got their legendary Murabi, 6 mana 4/4. So right there, this effect needs to be nuts. Whenever another minion is frozen, add a copy of it to your hand. And so right there, the effect is not nuts. If it was summon it would be better. It might actually just be way too strong, but this effect is not good. I know Shaman gets a lot of freeze effects in this expansion, but this is not a card that you're going to play in really any deck. Even in one that's like super freeze oriented, you wouldn't want to play this, because you'd rather play like spell power and things to try to clear out the minions so that you can get through. It's as simple as that they're not going to get enough freeze spells for Thrall Deathseer or for Shaman in a 9-card expansion. They're not. There's no way that freeze Shaman is going to become a thing when it's never even been a concept before. Much like when they started introducing strong totem cards in TTT for Shaman, it took like 2 or 3 expansions until Shaman became a viable class. So if for whatever reason they continue adding more freeze cards to Shaman after this expansion, maybe one day Murabi will see play. If there's like a way that you can cheat him out. But other than that, just no way. 6 mana 4/4. You're gonna be upset if you get this card in your hand. You're gonna be at a tempo loss. You're not gonna want to put it in your deck. This card is a solid garbaggio. 1 out of 5. Alright, next up, 2 mana spell, Cryostasis. Give a minion +3/+3 and freeze it. So for 2 mana less, you're getting a delayed mini Blessing of Kings. You could play this like on a taunt, minion, and be pretty well off. I think there's actually a big taunt in, yeah, there's a big taunt creature, oh here we are, big taunt creature in this expansion, and so that could be pretty nice, but it's hard to say. +3/+3 and freeze it. It's just the 3/3 on 1 minion. If you're playing an aggro variant, you're not going to want to play this. If you're playing a more mid-range control, mid-range you might want it, in control you'll probably want it, but the freeze aspect could just be such a detriment. And because of that unpredictability, I don't think I would play this card. I wouldn't like get it and be like, oh, time to put this into a Shaman thing that I can buff minions, which isn't really a deck either. I'm going to go ahead and give this a 2 out of 5 because if you get it, it's not the end of the world, but you're not going to want to put it in your deck. You're not going to want to get it, but if you somehow end up with it, it's not the end of the world. Okay, next card, Icebreaker. Destroy any frozen minion damaged by this. 3 mana 1/3. Yep, think this card is also garbage. I'm not afraid to say that a card is going to be garbage, because its mechanics aren't there already. You're not gonna combo this with Ice Elemental. You're not gonna combo this with Frost Shock. That's a 4 mana destroy a minion. You know, why? Why are you gonna do that? Why are you gonna gimp yourself by putting a 1/3 weapon on at 3 mana? Just, I mean, at that point, just play Spirit Claws. You know, that's a 2 mana 1/3 that doesn't see play. This is a 3 mana 1/3 that's not going to see any play in any format whatsoever. 1.5, or I mean 1 out of 5. Voodoo Hexer, Taunt, freeze any character damaged by this minion. It's a 5 for 2/7. So right here you're getting about a 4 mana's worth of stats, even with the Taunt. And then the freeze effect. Is the freeze effect worth the extra, the extra mana? And I'm gonna go ahead and say yeah, it is. So even if you don't make a freeze deck, I think this card is really strong, just in a mid-range style of Shaman, where maybe you want to survive a little bit longer to get to drop your bigger things. It's also a pretty big minion itself, so a lot of aggro cards are gonna have trouble dealing with this card specifically, because they can't trade up their cards, and if they trade in their cards, then they're going to be removed from the next turn anyway, so you've got a turn to react. This is a very strong card. It's also a 2/7, so it works really well with like the Hot Springs Elemental, so you can continue to heal it up, keep it buffed up. You can maybe do some pretty cool things with it in Wild, where you give it resummon this minion. This is a good card. I would like to have it in my hand. I would probably put it in my deck too, but it's not going to be crazy defining. So another 4 out of 5 for Voodoo Hexer here. Very good card. Alright, next up we got Burlock. Battlecry, freeze an enemy. Oh boy, so you could you can combo this and Icebreaker. In reality, a 2/2 freeze is okay, especially in Murlocs. Murlocs obviously see play in Shaman. Murloc Shaman would play, or would like this card, freeze, to prevent them from trading with your board, at least for 1 more turn. Because that's typically how it goes, is that it'll be turn 2, you've got, 2 or 3 Murlocs on the board already, and then they play their 1 card. You could go ahead and play this, and freeze that 1 card, and continue building up your Murloc army. So pretty good card. A 2/2 with a good battle cry. I would also play it in non-Murloc variants because it just seems pretty strong early on. You know, this is a world where Ice Shard sees a lot of play, and that's a 1 mana 2/1 with the same effect. So why would I play? Okay, so in a normal deck, I wouldn't play this over Ice Shard, but in a Murloc deck, I would put this in. So depending on your deck, this is a fine card. If you get, and also if you find the card randomly, you're not going to be upset. This gets a 3.5. Solid card. Whoops. Alright, next up we've got Drukhari Defender. 3 mana, 2/8, Taunt, Overload 3. So you play this on turn 3, you don't get to play a turn 4. Is that worth it? Against aggro, probably. Probably absolutely. Because this will deal with aggro for at least, you know, 2 turns. Assuming they don't have Hex or like super hard removal, or have already flooded the board to the point that you can't deal with it anyways. If you didn't have a completely dead turn 1 and turn 2, this will be worth it on turn 3. Otherwise, I mean, if you had a dead turn 1, turn 2, you were probably dead to begin with, against aggro especially. So, a 2/8, instead of Death Lord, this is the Overload, so I'm going to go ahead and refer to him as the Overlord. This is a good card. I like it. It's solid. Solid wall. Solid thing to protect you and your minions that you might be building up. I'd also say that it's good for Evolve Shaman because it can tank a lot of hits, and then you can go ahead and evolve it and trade it up into a 4 mana card. And so it's very durable. It'll last. Would you play this over Tar Creeper? It's hard to say, because Tar Creeper deals with a lot more early game, but it obviously can't take as many hits. It's got some overload synergy for cards that still have that. If you play it in Wild, if you play this in Wild, this card's going to be really good with your Tunnel Trogs. But other than that, it's a good card. And if you get it in the late game, you can still play it in the late game. It's just well statted. It's about 4.5 mana worth of stats on it, and it's asking you to basically pay 3 up front and then 3 later on. So it's an overall tempo loss of 1.5, but the gain that you get originally of an extra 1.5 could be what you need. I'm gonna go ahead and give this I'm gonna give this a 4. This is a 4. There you go. I would play it in my deck. I would play it in Evolve. I would play it in Wild. I would not hate to have it in my hand through other means, but there are other cards obviously that are just gonna be defining. This will not define the deck. Ice Fishing. Draw 2 Murlocs from your deck. A 2 mana card. This is a great card. Obviously, Murlocs aren't super valuable, but if you're playing a Murloc deck anyways, you know, you can go ahead and replace those Mana Tide totems with this card instead, because you'll get 2 immediate draws and continue building up your Murloc army. This in Wild is going to be insane. This in Standard is going to be really good with just if you have a aggro Murloc variation. This is crazy. This is a crazy card. And you're going to put, you know, 2 of them in, so you draw 4 Murlocs. So you've drawn a 1/5 of your deck on turn 3. This is a solid card. Really good. Wow. And I was just talking about how there was no 2 mana draw 2 cards. This is a 2 mana draw 2 cards in a Murloc Shaman for absolute sure. 2 mana draw 2 cards. If it was 3 mana, this would see play. If it was 3 mana, this card would see play. At 2 mana, it's absolutely crazy. This is a deck-defining card, 5 out of 5, with a circle on it. Circled. 5 out of 5. really strong card. Wow, I'm just like, I'm continuously just thinking of, you know, cycling through Murlocs and pumping them out one after another as Murloc Shaman. This is a strong card. Okay, moving on to Warlock. Haven't gotten his legendary hero yet, but we've got Blood Queen Lanathel, Lifesteal. Has +1 attack for each card you've discarded this game. So it seems like it's for the entirety of like cards that you've discarded, which is okay, but let's go ahead and think here. If this card was a 4/6 vanilla with just Lifesteal, would you play it? And the answer is probably no. You wouldn't probably just play a 5 mana 4/6 with Lifesteal. You probably wouldn't. So you'd have to get this up to some crazy amount, which it's not even about the attack really. It's about the health. And here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna play this, it's gonna get fireballed. And then you discarded a bunch of cards for nothing, and you got nothing out of it. You built a whole discard deck around this card and you got nothing out of it. Or it's gonna trade once, and then you get 1 heal, and you've discarded a whole ton of cards just for a single heal. Why not just play a healing card? You know? So this isn't a good card. This is actually a really bad card. And the +1 attack isn't going to make it any better. And it doesn't matter how many cards you discard in how many different fashions. You know, it seems like with Warlock they just want you to throw away your deck at this point. And if you have this card in it, you might as well. It's a horrible tempo loss if you get it in any way other than putting it in your deck. If you put it in your deck, it's a horrible tempo loss. There's nothing really saving about this card. I was going to give it a 1.5, but really, no, it's just garbage. This is just a bad card. I feel sorry for everyone who opens it in their first 10 packs. Alright, next card. Nosferatu. It's a 2 mana 2/3 battlecry. Remove the top deck from your opponent's card, or your opponent's deck. This card is great. This card is really good. It's just a vanilla minion that destroys a card. It's got its combo tech. It ruins big cards potentially, and you're gonna see this absolutely in a zoo type deck. Maybe not so much in a control deck, because you're not gonna want to play it and hope that you discard something in a control matchup. But I mean, you're not going to play this and it doesn't give you any sort of benefit immediately in the control matchup. But you can play this in like not Timberwolf, but Direwolf and trade up. You potentially disrupt your opponent's next turn. You get rid of a card and you make them burn into fatigue faster. There's a lot of different variations of what's good about this card. But this is a very solid card. I definitely see it in Zoo. I definitely see it in other types of Warlock decks that we're going to want to use this. It's going to be good in Arena. It's solid. There's no downside to it. There's no downside to playing this card. And that's what's going to make it a 4 out of 5. It's not a deck defining card, of course, but you're going to put this in your deck and you're going to be like, every time you play it, you're going to feel like you've done something to affect the game. 4 out of 5. Next up, we've got Treachery, 3 mana. Choose a friendly minion and give it to your opponent. You can give them your Ticking Abomination. You can give them your Doomsayer, I guess. If you really want to make sure that your Doomsayer gets across, you can give them like a Hydra. There's a lot of silly combinations that you can do with this card. And this is going to be purely for meme decks. Like, it's going to be purely for jokes. There's no serious application for this right now. But you're going to put this in to your deck. You're going to put like the new card Defile, which we'll get to in a second. And then you're also going to do some way of giving them minions and also get like Backstreet Apothecary. You're just going to try to think of all sorts of different combos of giving your opponent the worst cards and then making them kill themselves. So then we're gonna go ahead and just think of a bunch of silly cards that you want to give away. So on its own, this card isn't very good, and they're all whatever. Anyways, it's just a solid card. It's a solid card for what you're going to be planning to do. Let's give it a 3. Alright, next up we've got Defile. Now Defile is one of those cards that I really think is just going to be one of the best cards, like, in this expansion. Probably for the next 2 years of Standard. Deal 1 damage to all minions if any die casts again. That's board clear after board clear after board clear after board clear for 2 mana. For 2 mana. This could have been 3 mana again. It could have been 3 mana and it would see play. At 2 mana, this card is nuts. It is nuts. I can't believe this is just the card that they're gonna go with. Very good stuff. I love it. Gonna go ahead and give it an absolute 5. There's so many different ways that you can do this. Good stuff. You know, I'm just thinking about like Defile and Hydra from the last expansion. I'm just thinking about and Treachery. I mean, so yeah, you're gonna play Hydra, Treachery, and then Defile, and then kill all their tokens, and then keep like casting it over and over and over. Alright, good card. Okay, Unwilling Sacrifice, 3 mana. Choose a friendly minion, destroy it, and a random enemy minion. Excellent, excellent in Zoo. Excellent in Zoo, that's all it is. You play this after you play your Dinosaur Egg. You play it after Nerubian Egg, you play it after you know, any one of your crappy little tokens. You play it after anything that you want. And that's what you get. It's a solid card. So, good stuff. I think in Zoo, this is going to be a very good combo card. You already have Hungry Pterodax, so that's it's going to be competing against Hungry Pterodax in that sense. But I still think there will be a way that you can fit this card in with Zoo, especially because this and Pterodax are completely different cards. You know, you can use this to destroy a really strong minion that maybe you can't destroy by normal means. It's a solid card. Solid card. I'm going to give this a 4. Sanguine Reveler, 1 mana 1/1, Battlecry. Destroy a friendly minion and gain +2/+2. So again, this is one of those, like, you can make different tokens to deal with, and you get a net gain of +1/+1. It's okay. You know, maybe you use this after you've traded with a minion. You know it's going to die next turn. Maybe it's at like 3/1 and you're against a mage. So you use it, you trade, whatever, you make it down to the 3/1, then you just kill it yourself, and you know you've got a stronger minion now. This will see play in Zoo again. I think it will see play in Zoo because it's just got the buffs, it's got the cycle behind it. It's pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and give it another 4. It seems like there's going to be a lot of good Zoo cards going on with Unwilling Sacrifice, that card, Gnome Feratu. So I'm excited for that because I really like Zoo. Alright, next up we've got Wailing Fellhound. Whenever this minion takes damage, discard a random card. It's a 3 mana 3/6. Now, I want you to imagine you're playing Hearthstone, and you're holding your cards. And so you play this card down. And then you do this, and you just throw your cards away. Why? Why would you want to do that? See, there's obviously discards energy with like the quests and with the blood larva, the larva queen, whatever, from the last expansion, the one that gains +2/+2 when it's discarded. But this is not the card that discard Warlock needed. They needed cards that they need more cards like Silverware Golem. They need more cards like Silverware Golem where you summon a card if you discard it, or that it gets some sort of benefit if you discard it, like Fist of Jaraxxus. I like that they're trying to turn Warlock into discard cards. I think that's cool. But other than that, there's not really a reason for this card to exist. It's bad. And it's a demon too, so you're going to get it from all sorts of demon discover effects, and it's going to be bad when you play it then. It's just... nah. No. Are you going to put this in your discard, Warlock? Yeah, you are. You're going to do it. You're going to do it. You know you want to. You know you want to, just because of that one time you're going to get like 10 hits on your larva, and it's going to become a 2-mana 12/12. And it's just... that's the time that you're going to want to use it. But this card has destroyed Bane of Doom now. It's destroyed Demon Trafficker. And that's fine. You know, I was actually thinking about this card and Bane of Doom. And Bane of Doom is the problem card, not this one. Because Bane of Doom is one of those just too high variants of a card to be able to see what it's going to be every single time. So it's just not that great. Bane of Doom. I mean, Wailing Fellhound, for its stats, it's fine for what it's trying to accomplish. If your deck is built around it, that's fine. And like I said, if there's more cards that come out that are like Silverware Golem, you're going to put this card in. The deck's just not there yet. The deck's not there yet. So, because of that, that's going to get this a 2 out of 5. Alright. Next up, to my second favorite class, Warrior. Looks like neither of the Warrior Legendaries have been revealed. What the heck, Blizzard? Come on. But I do know some of the cards here, and I'm very excited. So the first one here is 2-mana spell, Bring It On. Gain 10 armor, reduce the cost of minions in your opponent's hand by 2. This is the definition of do it no balls. I absolutely love this card. So the 10 armor itself is pretty good. You know, for about 2 mana you can expect about 8 armor. So you get 2 extra armor, and you can reduce the spells or the cost of their minions by a lot. So when you're doing that, you're really kind of rolling the bones there too, because you can do this like early game when they only have 4 cards in their hand and maybe not all of them are minions. Or you can wait until the late game where they have like no minions at all. You definitely don't want to cast this in the mid game when they have like 7 cards in hand and it can potentially hit a whole ton of them. You know, you basically break even, I would say, in the early game at least, if you hit this on just 2 minions. And in the late game, if you hit it on 2 minions, you're going to be fine. You know, you'd rather have the 10 armor than whatever discount they're going to get, because they're not going to get any super crazy combo, you know, going if that's not what their deck's about. I just think the 10 armor is going to be really strong here. I know I got a lot of backlash once when I was talking about armor and how strong it is in Warrior. A lot of people thought that Shield Maiden was a garbage card, and I gave that card a 5 out of 5. I think Bring It On here is going to be like a 4 out of 5, because you're going to play this, they're going to play whatever they want, and then you play Shield Slam. This is going to be a great card in control, is what I'm trying to say here. So another, just a 4 out of 5, great card in Warrior, no bias whatsoever. Alright, next up we have Dead Man's Hand. Shuffle a copy of your hand into your deck. Love this card. Love this card again. More cards that just make your game go on longer. That's what I love about Warrior and Hearthstone. The games just never end. So imagine you're in the control matchup, and you're playing against Jade Druid or whatever, and you have this card, and you have the other one in your hand as well. You start playing these cards, and you basically are turning your hand into, you know, a sustaining deck. The issue here is that you need to hope that your cards, or that your deck has some sort of good cards to deal with like continuous late game threats like Jade Druid. So you maybe want to hope that you've got a Brawl in there, something really good to continue it going. But I like this card. I mean, I'm sorry, I like Dead Man's Hand. I really like Dead Man's Hand. And you just shuffle a bunch of cards and it's just more delayed value. You're gonna hopefully have some of your big cards in there, so you've got more big cards to have in the future. You know, this is a very hopeful Control Warrior card, and I just love Control Warrior. Is it gonna be practical? It's hard to say. It's hard to say because it's basically a 2 mana do nothing that turn. 2 mana do nothing, and you gotta wait. And so, you know, you gotta think of like Beneath the Grounds, and that saw very little play, but it saw play. I think Dead Man's Hand is gonna be the same way. You're gonna see it with play here. And because of that, I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I would put it in my deck. I would be happy to get it from Discovered Effects. It's not gonna define my deck. And there are better cards to put into your deck as well. But I love this card. Alright, number 3, or 3 mana, 4/3, Mountain Fire Armor, Death Rattle. If it's your opponent's turn, gain 6 armor. You're trading into me, man. I'm not trading into you. You're giving me 6 free armor, and if not, I'm just gonna bash you over and over with 4 damage. And that's fine, you know? You can just bash someone over and over with 4 damage until you get too low to the point, and then you go ahead and trade up anyways. But most likely, this effect's gonna go off. And so if it was 3 mana 4/3 gain 6 armor every time, you would absolutely play this. This is basically that card. It's almost guaranteed that it will die on your opponent's turn, because otherwise you're just gonna keep going into face. This is just straight damage for you. This is gonna be good in Control Warrior, Tempo Warrior, not so much Pirate Warrior. But no, it's aggressively set. It's a Pirate Warrior, not Taunt Warrior. So there, you've got like 3 different decks that it's going to be good in. Another solid card, another, it's going to, it's not deck defining. It's not deck defining. 4.5. Deck defining is what makes it a 5 out of 5. You're going to put this in every, like, deck, but you're not going to be like, oh, Mountain Fire Armor, it's the only card about this deck. 4.5. Valkyr Soulclaimer, 3 mana 1/4. Whenever this minion survives damage, summon a 2/2 ghoul. Okay, so let me tell you about a card called Frothing Berserker. It's a 3 mana 2/4, and its effect is gain 1 damage 1 attack every time it gets damaged. That card is significantly better than this one, and that card sees play. But this card does not seem like it's going to see play. You're also going to be hurting your ghouls if you continue whirlwinding or whatever. So I don't think this card's going to see any play. It's a 1/4 for 3, so it's pretty bad stat-wise. The 2/2 ghoul, if you pop one of them out, then that makes it a 3/6, which makes it okay. But at that point, just play Berserker. So you're not going to see it in Tempo Warrior, you're not going to see it in Control Warrior, you're not going to see it in Aggro. It's a fine arena card, and if you get it, you can play it. It's going to be a slight tempo loss, so I'm going to go ahead and give this a 2.5. 2.5 for Valkyr Soulclaimer. It's a cool effect, but it's just not very good. Okay. 1 mana 1/3 Animated Berserker. After you play a minion, deal 1 damage to it. It's not that great. Unless you're doing like an Enrage heavy, you play this and Gramash. It's not as good as Cruel Taskmaster. It's the 1/3, so that's fine. Like, this is gonna be fine in arena. It's a 1/3, but the deal 1 damage to your own minions, especially in the early game, unless you're like super built around damaging your own cards with Armorsmith. Like, if you play this and then Armorsmith and then Acolyte and then I don't know, Bloodhoof Brave, and that's like your dream. That's the absolute dream, is that for whatever reason this hasn't died yet. And even in the absolute dream scenario, it's not that great. You've got a 1/3 with an effect, you've got a 1/2 with an effect, and you've got a 5/5 taunt on turn 4. And that's the absolute dream. It's not that great. I'm gonna go ahead and have to unfortunately give this like a 2. If you get it, you're gonna be like, okay, I'll play it. Like if you get it in a random effect, you're gonna play it. You're not gonna put this in your deck, and it's not gonna define your deck. Whew. So remember, we were talking about Shadowblade earlier, but let me tell you about my actual favorite weapon in this expansion. Here it is, Blood Razor, 4 mana, 2/2, Battlecry and Death Rattle. Deal 1 damage to all minions. So I'm gonna take this card, and I'm gonna go into Wild, and I'm gonna play Patron Warrior, because Patron Warrior is my favorite deck, and I'm just gonna play this. I'm just gonna put this card in. This is basically Deathbite. A little bit weaker than Deathbite, but Deathbite was one of the strongest weapons ever printed in Hearthstone. So this is a slightly weaker Deathbite. It still has 2 damage, so you play this, it's going to deal 3 damage, and then the next turn it's going to deal 3 damage and also hit everything around. So obviously your warrior is going to benefit from it. Your enemy is not going to, because you're going to be clearing their board, because you just did a 2 damage AoE to them, and you just got a bunch of buffs for yourself because you had your Armor Smith up, you had your Acolyte, you had whatever, you had your patrons, and they all started summoning people, and this is just good. Back in the day, people would play Deathbite and then play a weapon over it just to activate the Death Rattle. You get the Whirlwind effect with this. This card is well within its range. This 2/2. This would usually be about 2 mana. It's got 2 Whirlwinds on it, so it's 4 mana worth of stats. It's a solid weapon, and it's definitely going to find a way in Standard Control Warrior, in Standard Tempo Warrior. I'm not sure about Taunt Warrior, but definitely for those first ones that will. This is a card. This is a deck-defining card, without a doubt. 5 out of 5. Whoopsies. What did I do? Whoop, where am I? Oh, there we are. Oh. How far did I go? Oh, there we are. Blood Razor. Okay. Let's fix this. Okay, Blood Razor. Neutral. Okay, so here are all the neutral cards. Hopefully we can get through this pretty quickly, because I spent a lot of time talking about the different classes. Alright, so Prince Keleseth. Battlecry. If your deck has no 2-cost cards, give all minions in your deck +1/+1. Okay, so think about Mistcaller. Mistcaller saw 0 play, but it was super overcosted. This is never going to happen. Your deck will never not have 2-cost cards in it. There's just no way you can make a deck that doesn't have 2s in it. You can't skip out on the minions. Even if you're a priest, or even if you're a class, if you're a priest, if you're a class that doesn't play 2 drops, then it doesn't matter, because you've got 2-cost spells. If this was like no 2-cost minions, I can maybe see it seeing play, but just 2-cost spells, no, or 2-cost cards, no way. You will never get this. You will never, ever get this. Your one chance of playing this card is to make a 30-card deck with 29 cards that cost anything other than 2, and hope that this is in your opening hand. Because if not, then you have no 2 play, and you don't get the effect immediately, and you're just going to gimp yourself entirely. For a deck that has no 2 play though, let's go ahead and think about where you would want to put this. You could always hero power for Mage, Rogue, Warlock, Paladin, Control Warrior. those would all be fine, like turn 2 just hero power. It's obviously a tempo loss, but it's not the worst in the world. But all those decks that I just said have 2-drops. They all have 2-drops. And you'd have to remove every single 2-drop just to hopefully draw this card. So this is not going to see play. Continuing on things that will not see play, Prince Taldaram, a 3-mana 3/3 Battlecry. If your deck has no 3-cost cards, transform. Oh, I'm sorry, Prince Keliseth right here, Prince Keliseth. It's not a super tempo loss. If you get it randomly, it's gonna get a 2. Prince Taldaram. If your deck has no 3-cost cards, transform into a 3/3 copy of a minion. This is slightly more attainable than Prince Keliseth, because 3s, you can cut back on 3s. Especially if you're going for a more control-heavy game in the end, you can cut 3s. I'm trying to think of cards that are, so your secrets in Mage cost 3, Volcanic Potions. In Warlock, you've got the Councilman, you've got a whole bunch of different zoo type cards that cost 3, and there's nothing that you're really going to want to transform this into a 3/3 copy of. You're going to need something like some sort of insane death rattle or some sort of insane passive effect. So I was thinking of this card, like you could play this in the late game for Mage and get like a play Antonidas and this, and then like play a coin or play a 0-costed spell somehow, and then you get 2 fireballs, and that's like the super best case scenario. Again, this is not a tempo loss. If you get a 3/3 in Arena, it's whatever, but you're never ever gonna get this effect. 2 out of 5, and even if you do get the effect, it's not that great. But so those princes are pretty bad, but let's go ahead and talk about 4-mana Prince Volunteer. Battlecry. If your deck has no 4-cost cards, gain lifesteal and taunt. So 2 and 4s, you're never not going to have them. So this effect is never going to go off. But let's just go ahead and talk about what happens should you get the effect off. Gain lifesteal and taunt. A 4-mana 4/4 taunt that also heals for 4. This card, even in the best situation, even if it didn't have the condition right here, if it was just lifesteal and taunt, this would be like a 3 out of 5 at best. But because it's not, this is just a 4-mana 4/4. I'm not going to let the fact that the text completely sucks cloud my judgment, but this is a horrible tempo loss. You're never going to get it. Even if you do, it's a bad effect. So here we are, another 2 out of 5. All these princes are really garbage. Alright, let's move on to Corpse Taker. 4-mana 5/3 Battlecry. Gain taunt if your deck has a taunt minion. Repeat for Divine Shield, Lifesteal, and Wind Fury. Okay, so put this into your Shaman deck, and then put Alakir into your Shaman deck, and then put this into your Paladin deck, and then put that in with your Tyrion, or put this in with your Bristleback, I don't know his name, the explodey guy from Mean Streets of Kazakhstan for Paladin. This is an absolutely crazy, nutty, super duper crazy card. It's nuts. It's super crazy. I love it. It's gonna be deck defining. You will put this into a deck with Tyrion. You will put it into a deck with Alakir. You will be putting it into all sorts of different decks. This is going to see play. It's nuts. You will be seeing this for the next 2 years, because a 4-mana 3/3 with even just 2 of those, even just 2 of these, effects is worth it. But to have 3 or possibly even 4, it's crazy. It just makes it so that your opponent needs to immediately remove it. This is going to be a deck defining card. It's a 5 out of 5. Alright, next up we've got Meat Wagon. 4-mana 1/4 Death Rattle. Summon a minion from your deck with less attack than this minion. They could have made this into a 2-attack minion, and it still probably would have been pretty bad. obviously the first place that your mind goes to is hand buff for this. And like I said, even at 2 attack, it's not that great. So you need 2 ticks of hand buff onto this card to make it slightly viable, and then you pull out a random minion from your deck. That's your reward. No, this card is not good. It's a horrible, horrible tempo loss, and the potential to pull out just really awful things from your deck too, like powerful battle cries, is just not worth it. Because it's not like Barnes where it makes a copy of it. It's pull it from your deck, you lose the battle cry. It's like a I can't think of the card right now. I can't think of the card. Whatever. There's cards in Hearthstone that pull out cards from your deck. Like Death Lord. It's like Death Lord. There we go. Horrible tempo loss. I would not put this in my deck. There's nothing redeeming about it. I really like the idea of it, but it's just such a dream heavy card that there's no way it's gonna happen. But because it has potential to do something cool with 2 ticks of hand buff, it's 1.5. Whereas, like, even if you fulfill the condition of Prince Valinir here, it's not a good thing. This card just sucks. If you fulfill the potential and get like the super dream on this, it's possible. Okay, next up we've got Nerubian Unraveler. 6 mana 5/5, spells cost 2 more. It's okay. A 6 mana 5/5 is not the worst. It's pretty poorly statted. Again, it could have been a 5/6, I think, and it would still be fine, because it affects your spells too. But this is a good combo delay, and it makes it so that, like, spell-heavy decks have to deal with this card. So this card is absolutely going to destroy something like Freeze Mage. It's going to destroy something like Miracle Rogue, Miracle Druid, things like that, because they're not going to have the minions on board to trade with this. So you drop this on 6, they've got an empty board, and now they have to, they can't Firelands it anymore. They can spend their whole turn fireballing it, but then they throw away a fireball and they waste the whole turn. They could swipe and hero power on turn 8. I guess on turn 5 you could return like a Shadow Strike or something like that for Rogue. But this is a good combo stopper. It's a really good combo stopper, and if a lot of strong combo decks become the norm, if like everyone's playing Freeze Mage, if everyone's playing Miracle Rogue and all those sorts of spell heavy decks, then this card is going to see play. And because it's going to see play, then you gotta look at the stats. And now the stats are a little rough, but its effect is so strong that it kind of makes up for that, because it really delays your opponent's turn for the whole one. Lothar saw play, but it was a 5 mana 5/5. This will die after 1 turn, assuming. But it's still a good card, and I think because of that, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 4. It's a very hopeful 4, and I like the idea of these cards existing. Okay, next up we've got Rattling Rascal, Battlecry. Summon a 5/5 skeleton. Death Rattle, summon a 5/5 skeleton for your opponent. Okay, so there's not a lot of ways to completely remove a card from battle, but there are a lot of ways to skip the summoning process for a card in Hearthstone. So the Death Rattle is way more likely to go off than the Battle Cry, because you can get this from like a random transformation. Like if you evolve and turn this into, or turn a 3 mana card into this, then you just give your opponent a massive tempo swing. If you get this from really any sort of card that skips the Battle Cry, it's a loss. So that's pretty bad. This is a bad card. Because you can summon out the 5/5 skeleton all you want. You start off your turn with a 4 mana 7/7, a 4 mana 7/7, but when it dies, then that's that, So I like the card. It's kind of cool. but the effect is just never going to work out for you. I'm going to give it a 3. Not because I put it in my deck and not because I wanted to see it show up in my hand, but there's nothing really, just, it doesn't disrupt the flow of the game so much. It's like a complete net nothing on turn 4, which is really, it's whatever, you know? It does nothing for you and it does nothing for your opponent. It just kind of wastes everyone's time. Okay, 6 mana, 4/6 Skulking Geist Battlecry. Destroy all 1-cost spells in both hands and decks. Okay, so the Blizzard didn't want to just say there's a problem with Jade Idol. They wanted to make a card to deal with it, apparently. And this is going to be that card. Destroy all 1-cost spells in both hands and decks. Okay, so buy Jade Idol. It's as simple as that. I'm putting this into my Control Warrior card, or into my Control Warrior deck, and if Jade Druid is still a thing, then I'm going to play this. 1-cost spells. It's really obvious what they were targeting here. It's really obvious that they were targeting Jade Idol here, because there's no other problematic 1-cost spell. It might as well just say destroy all Jade Idols in the game. But this is a tech card. It's a tech card, and it's going to do exactly what it's going to do. There's not really any problematic 1-cost spells other than Jade Idol. So, I love this card because I hate Jade Idol. It's as simple as that. The tempo loss is really big, and in a matchup where the tech, it doesn't matter, then that's going to be effective. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a 3 out of 5. I would play it for the effect, but the stats are way too low to make it like a must-have tech. This is a tech if and only if Jade Druid is way too strong. Okay, next up we've got Tomb Lurker, 5 mana, 5/3 Battlecry. Add a random Death Rattle minion that died this game to your hand. So you're gonna put this in your N'Zoth decks, and you're gonna like it because you like N'Zoth going off. So why not go ahead and continue having N'Zoth going off, right? So this is good. This is a good card. I think the stats are really low, which is kind of a problem. The 5/3, but you basically get draw for your N'Zoth deck, and it's also a death rattle minion that's died this game, so you know it's going to cost under 5 in most cases if you're playing it on curve. There's good death rattles, of course. For under 4, you can get more card draw. It's a pretty solid card. It's definitely going to make its way into some N'Zoth decks, not all, but so not like N'Zoth Warrior, but decks that really focus on death rattles and crazy death rattles. I think this was also going to be really good in Wild. But the tempo loss is pretty big, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a 3.5. You'd play this in a death rattle deck, but other than that, you're going to have to give it some consideration. Alright, 5 mana, 3/3 Corpse Razor Battlecry. Give a minion, or a friendly minion, death rattle, resummon this minion. Okay, so that is the Shaman spell that costs 2 mana, the resurrect this minion, whatever, I forget what it's called. But you resummon the minion. This is okay, I guess, especially again in death rattle heavy decks already. So you could put this on Cairn, you could put this on Sylvanas, you could put this on Tyrion. You know, this is a solid card. If you really want to really make sure that that death rattle minion stays around, or that persistent effect minion stays around. And for its cost, it's not that bad. It's a 5 mana 3/3. We've had really strong cards with that stat line before. We've had like Healbot. Moat Lurker saw no play, and it kind of did the same thing as this, but I think Moat Lurker was 1 mana too much, and so I feel like this is a good way to get around Moat Lurker's restrictions. And Moat Lurker was a card that people thought was going to see play. I think this will see some play, but not in every deck. Again, strong death rattles and strong persistent effects. Because of that, it's not going to define a deck. It's going to get another 3.5. Alright, next up we got Mindbreaker. 3 mana, 2/5. Hero powers are disabled. Wow, that is a strong card. Look at his menacing face. He is ready. He is like, hey, I heard you guys wanted something crazy in here. And he did. And he gave us something crazy here. This is a good card. This is just a strong card. It's as simple as that. 2/5, great stats. Hero powers are disabled. It's a good way to make sure that your opponent's going to waste their time, because a lot of, like, in the early game, especially like for Mage or something, they might play something like Frostbolt and Pink to deal with a 4 health minion on turn 4, but now they can't do that. Rogues can't weapon up. Paladins can't. Well, Paladins will probably just like put True Silver on, but you know, it's still just a really strong card. This is a strong tech card as well, because if a lot of mages, rogues, paladins are playing warlocks, people who need their hero power to function are playing, then you're going to put this card in. So in a tech sense, this is absolutely worth it. So this is a 4.5. It's not going to define a meta, but if any of those cards come in, you can be sure that Mindbreaker is going to see its way in. Alright, next up we got Phantom Freebooter. 4 mana, 3/3, Battlecry, gain stats equal to your weapons. So I'm guessing it means 3, so it's attack and durability. That's good. You could play like a Fiery War Axe, and then you can play this, which would make it into a 6/5 for that combo. It's pretty strong. This is a strong aggro card. It's just another strong pirate card. So if you're sick of seeing pirates, well, sorry, you're gonna see some more. But it's good. It's good that they give weapon classes like that aggro variation. Really keeps things, you know, mixed up. So this is a fine card, and it's just another strong pirate card. This is a lot like the Taunt pirate. I can't think of its name right. Dread Corsair, where just the better your weapon is, the better it's going to come out, and that's just how it's going to be. So 4 mana, 3/3. Tempo loss isn't that bad, but it's got the pirate tag, so it's going to get pirate buffs. You're going to put this in your pirate deck. It's going to find its way into pirate decks. It's not going to define it, but it's going to be in pirate decks. 4 out of 5. Good card. Shallow Gravedigger. 3 mana, 3/1, Death Rattle. Add a random Death Rattle minion to your hand. So this can also be in N'Zoth decks. This is another kind of pseudo draw card. Its stat line is a little weak, and it's obviously going to die like the first turn. But if you add random Death Rattles to your hand, there's always a chance that you get Tyrion. There's always a chance that you get, you know, something crazy. But then there's also the chance that you just get garbage. Would you put this in a N'Zoth deck? Maybe. You might want to put it into a deck that hasn't N'Zoth, and because of that, it makes it okay. But other than that, and would you want to play it on its own? Maybe, actually. So this card isn't completely garbage, because it gives you draw, it gives you a minion, and it gives you just a body on board. So again, this is not going to define any decks, but it will probably see some play in one form or another. Either in Standard to let people get more Death Rattle cards for their N'Zoth, or even in Arena just to keep up the card tempo. It's a good card. Alright, here we got Memeing Abomination. 4 mana, 5/6, Death Rattle, deal 5 damage to your minions. So this was the first card revealed. For everyone who doesn't know, this was the first card revealed after a drought of information regarding Knights of the Frozen Throne. And what a card, right? What a card. Taking Abomination, deal 5 damage to all your own minions. This sucks. This card sucks. It's as simple as that. 5/6, it's not worth clearing out your whole board. You're not playing a control deck that's not gonna have N'Zoth, and you're gonna play this on a naked board. You're getting a Yeti with 1/1, but also destroy your board. It's not gonna happen. This card is garbage. It doesn't matter what the stats are. Tempo wise, it's bad. It's gonna ruin your board. Just know. Bad card. A lot of rares that haven't been revealed yet. Bone Mare. Battle Cry. Give a friendly minion +4/+4 and Taunt. It's a 7 mana 5/5. So you gotta be wondering, why? If this was a 7 mana 9/9 Taunt, that'd be really strong. But this is just a crazy card. This is basically a free Blessing of Kings and a little extra on the side attached to a 5/5. This card's nuts. It's gonna see play in all sorts of token, and all sorts of token cards, or all sorts of token decks. It's gonna see a lot of play in Arena. It's gonna see play in Paladin for sure. It's gonna see play in basically anything that creates a token. Shaman is gonna play this card. Warlock is gonna play this card. It's hard to Pirate Warrior. Like a more mid-range Pirate Warrior will probably play this card. This card is great. It's close to deck defining, but not quite there. It'll see play in Arena and in Constructed. It's just really strong. 4.5. Alright, next up we've got 5 mana Cobalt Scalebane, 5 mana 5/5 Dragon. At the end of your turn, give another random friendly minion +3 attack. So this is kind of like the card in Priest that was giving +1/+1, or was it in Priest? I think it was in Priest. It was +1/+1. But you could put this in Dragon Priest and it's also going to work too. It's a 5 mana 5/5, so its stats are just fine, and it's got a nice effect, and it's a dragon. So you're going to discover this card, you're going to synergize with this card, you're going to have all sorts of cool things happening with this card. And it also works in Dragon Paladin too, because you can also just have a 4/1 token, and that's fine. The effect isn't immediate, but you're most likely going to get it off at least once. And if it was a 5/5, give a minion permanent +3, that's a solid card. You'd play that in Arena every day. You would play this in a dragon deck. It's not going to be defining, again, but really solid dragon card. Really good stuff. 4.5. Alright, next up, 3 mana 2/4 Deathspeaker, Battle Cry. Give a friendly minion immune this turn. So this kind of reminds me of the Plague Scientist from the Rogue set. You can give a minion immune this turn, and that's okay. I guess you just don't want to trade that minion. Actually, the more I look at it, it's on 3, so the tempo swing is going to be huge. You can play like just a 2 mana 3/2, and then you play this card and you don't lose your 3/2 when you're trading up. This is going to be an absolutely crazy Arena card just because of the tempo swing right there. But how about in Constructed, where you've got 2/2s, or you've got 3/2s, but most of the time your opponent can deal with spells. It's kind of a toss-up. I would say that this card is still pretty good, but is it good enough for Constructed play? Probably not, because you need to have like a very specific combo of a 3/2. You might see it in like Hunter, but considering that we never saw Stable Master played in Hunter, I don't think we're going to see Deathspeaker either. But it's a very good card. It's a very good Arena card for sure. Another 3.5. Okay. Next up we have Fallen Sun Cleric, 2 mana 2/1 Battle Cry. Give a friendly minion +1/+1. So Shattered Sun Cleric is a 3 mana 3/2 with the same effect. This is just basically, this was made for aggro decks because aggro decks kind of moved away from Shattered Sun Cleric. This is the same thing on a earlier minion. It's going to see play in aggro decks. It's a 4. Not deck defining, but it's a 4. It's going to see play in aggro decks for sure. It's a very simple card. Alright, 6 mana Necrotic Geist, 6 mana 5/3. Whenever one of your other minions dies, summon a ghoul. So compare this to like Cult Master. And Cult Master lets you draw cards. And Cult Master sees no play and has only 1 health less, and 2 mana less. It doesn't see play. This only summons 2/2s. Even if you got it off once, it wouldn't pay for the casting cost of this card. So this card is bad. This card is bad. you're going to play it on turn 6, it's going to get removed because it has 3 health, and so they're going to Frostbolt it and then do a 4-drop, and then you just lost the tempo game because you decided to play Necrotic Geist. This is a 1. This is a 1 out of 5. That's really weird. It's the first time we've come across such just a bad card so far. Alright, next up we've got Snow Flipper Penguin, 0 mana 1/1 Beast. It's another one. We got this, we got Whiston, we've got Murloc Tinyfin now. So my next guess is the next one is going to be an Elemental. The next time they make one of these 0... Oh wait, is Wisp an Elemental? I don't know. Make it a mech. Who cares? 0 mana 1/1, it's not going to do anything. It ruins kind of the beast pool. I'm not even going to bother rating this because it's not meant to be rated. It's not going to be put into a deck. You're going to find it in the weirdest places. You're going to find it during Zombeast. You're going to find it during like random, like Jeweled Macaw. And in that sense, it's okay, never mind, it's just a 2.5. There, enjoy your rating. There you go, Snow Flipper, you're cute. Okay. Sunborn Valkyrie, 5 mana 5/4, Battlecry, give adjacent minions +2 health. This is a good card. It's another one of those cards that lets you think about positioning of the board, and it's really good. Even if it hits on just 1 minion, it's fine, and if it hits on 2, then it's, you know, it pays for its cost. Are you going to play this in Constructed? Probably not. Maybe like in a zoo type deck, but I can't really see it being played all that much in Constructed. In Arena, probably. That extra 2 health can be nice for trading up into stuff without losing your own minions, and so then your opponent has to deal with it. 5/4 for 5, it's okay. It's an okay card. 3. If you get it, it's not a super tempo loss. Are you going to put it in your deck? No. And alright, so that actually is the last card revealed so far since the recording of this video. Like I said, I'm going to probably try to record the rest on Monday. Yeah, on Monday when the rest of the set is revealed. I think this was a very, you know, fun video to make, to go ahead and talk about every single card and look at every card that you'd want to know about in the set so far. So, if you're interested in it, just cool. I'm glad you liked it. I had a lot of fun making it. I will definitely continue making this on Monday and finishing up the set. Again, I'm very excited for Knights of the Frozen Throne. I can't wait for the expansion. I think it's going to be very cool. There's a lot of cool effects. I gave a lot of personal 5s to a lot of cards, and I'm very excited to try all those 5s, because those 5s aren't just cool effects, they're really deck defining. So hopefully everything turns out great for Knights of the Frozen Throne. We will see. So stay tuned till Monday. Take it easy, guys.